Welcome to Rock Your Reinvention, the show for high-achieving career women who refuse to settle for mediocrity and aren't afraid to take bold action. This is a place where you can authentically show up, where every dream and goal can be validated and achieved. Hi, I'm your host, Karen Freeland, a certified life reinvention coach, speaker, and award-winning author. I'm here to give you the tips, tools, and strategies to help you shift your mindset, build your confidence, and take meaningful actions so you can rock your reinvention. Ready to go from stuck to thriving? Let's go. I am so excited to get into this topic today on building a side hustle. Thank you to everyone on LinkedIn that voted for this topic in one of the recent polls. If we're not connected on LinkedIn, make sure you reach out because I would love to get more connected with my listener. Okay, so you're ready maybe to add something else to your repertoire, but you're like, am I really? How do I know I'm ready to start a side hustle? At what point should I actually dive in and make this a thing? And so we're going to cover off on the 5 signs that you're ready to start a side hustle, because there's no point in really talking about how to start a side hustle if you aren't actually ready to do it. And I think there's some key things that you want to be on the lookout for that will show you, yes, this is the time I'm ready to do this. Okay, 5 ways, 5 signs that you're ready to start a side hustle. Number 1, you are bored in your day-to-day job and you want something else to spice up your life, to give you a new challenge. You're like, yeah, like there's got to be more. I know I'm capable of doing something more. So typically when I see that a client is ready to make a shift and invite a side hustle into their life, they have this pent up restlessness going on in them. They're like, oh, I've got all these skills. I've got all these capabilities. Maybe they're even feeling underutilized in their day job. You're not ready to full-blown go into entrepreneurship, right? There could be some different circumstances. Maybe you like having that steady paycheck. Maybe you actually like your job. It's kind of easy, right? You could pretty much do it with your eyes closed and an arm tied behind your back. But you're like, why would I walk away from that? It's not that much of a problem. I work in a good corporate environment. So, you're like, it's not bad. I don't want to get rid of my day job. I just want to add something else to it. Another reason that I see people wanting to do this and kind of like goes in line with this boredom is wanting to have a more purpose-driven or meaningful work. Okay. Not that whatever you're doing isn't necessarily meaningful, but maybe it's not that making you tick, right? Oh, sure. When I was in marketing, that was meaningful work. I mean, that business couldn't exist if no one was out marketing the products and services, but it wasn't like I felt so compelled every day to wake up and be like, I cannot wait to market solar energy. Yes, this is going to be so good today. Like, I just really was like, it's a paycheck, right? But with coaching and with writing my books, it's like, oh my gosh, I am so passionate about this. I can't wait to change someone's life or get them to think about something differently. So it's very purpose-driven work for me. It has a lot of meaning to my life because I never want someone to go through the pain and anguish that I went through feeling stuck and burnt out for so long. So there's a lot of meaning and purpose. And you might be at that point where you're like, this is boring to me because I don't have that connection, that meaning, and that purpose in my life. So if you're feeling bored in your day-to-day job, you're restless, underutilized, you want more meaning, you absolutely could be ready to start a side hustle. The second thing I want to get you thinking about and noticing really is that you are constantly thinking or talking about your potential side hustle. Like this thing is constantly on your mind. When I was writing my first book, The Ins and Outs of My Vagina, a penetrating memoir, I could not stop writing it in my head everywhere I went. In between calls, while I was driving the kids to school, while I was laying in bed at night, on the weekends, sitting at the dinner table, like my head was just all in and I was recounting all these stories and I was writing what the dialogue with me and V could be. And I was just like, it was all consuming. I could not stop thinking about it. And once I got brave enough to talk to a few people and they were like, that's really cool. Oh my gosh, you should do that. Let me read some. Holy cow, this is amazing. You got to do something different. Like, you have to write this book. Then I couldn't stop talking about it. And I would just be like, oh my gosh, what do you think? I'm going to do this and just gauge people's reactions. And it was borderline obsession, right? To the point where it was like, okay, I am so mentally ready to make this leap. I'm so ready to bet on myself and do something different because I couldn't stop thinking about it or talking about it. If you are in that situation where you are always thinking about it, always talking to anyone who will listen about it, that is an excellent sign that you are ready to make that leap mentally. The other thing you can be noticing is, are you obsessed with researching about that side hustle? Like, are you learning all the ways, I don't know, let's say you want to get into interior design, like all the ways to decorate a space? And do you consume all the HGTV shows? And are you like on Pinterest and you just can't stop looking at it? Or are you obsessed with creating the next great mocktail because you gave up drinking and now you want to help other people have a social life but without having to feel like they have to drink? And so you're researching all the different kind of mocktails you could make. I don't know, I'm just making these things up, but you get the point, right? You just become obsessed with the research and learning all the things about that potential side hustle. Again, that's a great indication that this isn't just a passing fancy or a little fling or, hobby. This is something more. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, I know I want a side hustle, but I don't actually know what that side hustle should be, then I want to invite you to grab a copy of my book, Grab Life by the Dreams. And the reason I'm suggesting that is there's a whole section on envisioning your goals, on turning inward, getting clear on what you want, your values, what matters most to you. And then you're going to be able to shape a side hustle out of that. But if you don't do that real deep inner work and understand like who you are, what makes you tick, what your superpowers are, your strengths, your weaknesses, all that good stuff, it's going to be a lot harder for you to choose the right side hustle and to feel connected to it and to want to make it work. Because let me just be real clear. Just because you're going into a side hustle does not make it any easier than full-on entrepreneurship, okay? The risks may not be as great, but in terms of marketing and getting your name out there and actually making the side hustle sustainable, like it's just as hard, okay? So I don't want you to have any illusions that this is somehow magically easier. And when you hit a roadblock, if you're not deeply connected to this side hustle, you're probably going to give up. So I don't want you to do that. You got to go back and do the hard work on yourself first to know what the right side hustle is. And if you get the companion workbook, which is available on Amazon exclusively, the Grab Life by the Dreams companion workbook, I'll put the link in the show notes. That will help you go through all of those exercises really deeply so that you can get the max insights that you need to figure out the right side hustle for you. So I know that was like a little bit of a deviation there, but I wanted to call that out for anybody who's like, nope, I know I want to do this, but I don't know what I want to do. And then that would be a very clear sign that you are not quite ready yet to start a side hustle. So we're talking about the signs that you are ready. And we've already discussed number one, that you're bored. Number two, you're constantly thinking about this. Like this is all consuming for you. And number three, you have a strong desire for another revenue stream. You're like, I like the money I'm earning from corporate, but I want even more, right? I want to bring in some extra revenue to help build my wealth, right? And you know that you have the skills and capabilities to do that. So why not? Now, the big thing here that I want you to pay attention to is, yes, you know you want this other revenue stream, but how would you use that revenue stream? Let's get really clear, because again, I'm not a fan of making money for making money's sake. Okay, life is way too short to spend all of our time and energy solely focused on making money, you will be on your deathbed and you will regret your life. And I don't want that for you. I want more for you. There's nothing wrong with making money, but solely wanting to make money, it's not a great motivator. It's not a great way to live your life. That's how I feel. You can take it or leave it. But if you know clearly, I want to start a side hustle because I want to have extra money to put away for the kids to go to college, or I really want to have a second home somewhere, wherever, down south where it's warmer. Maybe you're in the north, or maybe like out west and whatever. You just know you want a second home somewhere. Or maybe it's something else, like you want to retire early. I'm going to start this side hustle now while I'm still collecting my paycheck, but I don't want to have to do that after 5 more years. Okay, boom. I'm starting this side hustle to help me retire earlier. Or maybe even for some of you, you want to retire your husband. Awesome. Like he can stop working, maybe stay home with kids or do whatever else. So again, it's about knowing how you want to use the money. I cannot stand, I just laugh and I scroll on by because remember, we've talked about this acronym before, SOB, scroll on by. I don't need to weigh in. But when I see women go into these Facebook groups and they're like, how do you make 6 figures? What is a way to start a side hustle and have an extra revenue stream? And then all these people come in with their hundreds of thousands of ways that you could be doing it. And I'm like, okay, that's great. One person says MLM, right? Do like a multi-level marketing scheme. Well, if that's not your jam, that is useless to you. If people are like, oh, I want to do something else on the side, great. You could go wait tables. Do you want to wait tables? Because that's a really easy way to make some extra cash on the side. You could just go bartend. You'll clean up and tips. Do you want to be at a bar until 3 a.m. on Fridays and Saturdays? If you're in a day job, you probably don't. I couldn't imagine being in that scene now. It's not really helpful to just be like, oh, I just want an extra revenue stream, right? You got to know what you want to be doing to earn that revenue stream and why you want that extra money. What are you actually going to do with it? Because again, when ish hits the fan and you are having a challenge or a roadblock and it's not as easygoing as you thought it was going to be, if you do not see why you are doing that, like this is how I need to use the money. This is to put my kids through school. I'm going to fight through this discomfort and push through. You're just going to give up because you're not that tied to it. Okay. So if you know how you want to use that revenue stream, that's a great sign. Number 4, you have a network of ready-made clients or are actively building that now. Here's the thing. With any business, it takes time to get clients. So if you can start building up a network of clients now, then they're going to be ready for your offer when you're ready to go into business and open up your doors for your side hustle. So you should be connecting with all kinds of people who fit that ideal client now, because these are the people who are going to be your first clients. Right? Like when I went into coaching, I had an entire network of professional women who could all be my client day one. Now, did they all want to leave their job day one? No. 2 years in, I'm getting calls from people like, I think I'm finally ready. I've been seeing what you're doing. This looks amazing. How do I get some of what you have? Help me out. Right? They were in my network the whole time, but they didn't buy until almost 2 years, 3 years in to me being a coach. People buy when they're ready, right? When they actually need your thing. So if you don't have a big network yet built up of ideal potential clients, that is something you're going to want to start working on in order to be ready to start that side hustle. But if you're like, oh, girl, I've got all those people in place. Like, I know everyone who could start buying my Mary Kay if I started selling that, or I know everyone who could use my marketing services. Like, I have a whole group of people who are entrepreneurs and they need copywriting services or whatever it is you do, right? If you've already got that, then that's a great sign that you are ready to jump into that side hustle. And you can start taking a couple of clients here and there. Now, if you're like, oh, sugar, I do not have that in play, Karen. I don't have the right people in my network. then that's something you want to start working on. And if you are actively doing that, expanding your network, going out and meeting people, adding these people to your network, then you're in the process of getting ready, right? You're doing the right things. And I wouldn't tell you to wait because when you're ready, you know you're ready, right? And maybe that should have been one of the signs too. Like you just feel it in your gut, you know? You're just like, no, this is right. With my book, I mean, no one in their right mind really was like, yeah, great idea, Karen. Leave your day job and go write a book about your vagina. That sounds like a great plan. You know, a lot of people were skeptical, but in my gut, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that this was a book that had to be written and that would do very well in the market. And it has by all, self-published standards, right? It has beat a lot of benchmarks. So sometimes you just have to system override everything else and go, nope, my gut is telling me that I must do this. So if you're in that place and you're like, I don't quite have the big enough network right at this moment, but it's something I'm willing to show up and work on every single day, then, you might be ready. You got to just do that gut check for yourself. Okay. And the last thing I wanted to say, sign number 5, that you are ready to start your side hustle is that you would carve out time and how you would carve out time in your schedule. Let's be real. If you're in a day job, you're busy, right? Like you have got a lot of stuff going on, which means you need to be both willing and able to shift around priorities and to start carving out time for this side hustle. So if you're already feeling burnt out, like you possibly cannot add one more thing to your plate, it's a great sign that a side hustle is probably not for you in this season of life without doing some serious work on burnout recovery. And if you've been listening to recent episodes, I just did a whole bunch of episodes on burnout. Go back and listen to them. Go take the burnout webinar. It's available on demand. Just go to KarenFreeland.com/burnout, right? Like you got to handle that first before you're ready to do a side hustle. But if you can look at your schedule and clearly see, okay, I could work this many hours on the weekend or at night after work, after I put the kids to bed, I could have an hour to commit to this. I could wake up an hour earlier. I could switch my workouts to this time of the day so that I have time, whatever it is, you're looking at how you can make that work. I mean, I'll be real. Like I was using some of my day job time. I know that's, probably not something I should admit, but the reality was, I had a team of people who were more than competent. It was a great way to delegate some stuff to them and boost their skills and give them more exposure inside the corporation and allow me to have some time to work on editing my book. So, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do to get it done, to fit it all in. As long as you are meeting your deliverables, as long as you are getting your job done, there's no harm in it from my vantage point. Okay, so if you know how you're going to carve out that time and fit it into your schedule, or you're open to making some changes, then it's a good sign that you're ready to start that side hustle. It takes time, right? Like anything, and it's worth putting it in. And you may find that you really start to enjoy it. And you may find that you actually want this to be eventually more than a side hustle. And that's okay too, right? Because we're in it for the journey and the learning experience and the fun. The side hustle should be fun, right? If it's not fun and it's not bringing you joy, it's probably not a good fit. Okay. So I hope that all of you are kind of going through the little checklist in your mind and figuring out whether or not you are actually ready to start a side hustle. And this is something that I have helped a number of clients with. So if you're ready to take on a side hustle and you know that you need accountability to follow through, you want help strategizing your actions and prioritizing all the things and coming up with your plans, and you want support on keeping your inner critic in check and drowning out any negative thoughts and really keeping a positive mindset through the process, let's chat. I highly encourage you to book a call. I would love to see how we could work together, how I could support you in this journey. I'll put the link to my Calendly in the show notes. But if you're ready and you're like, yes, I want to start the side hustle, I'd love to help you jump into entrepreneurship while you maintain your day job, as so many of my clients have done. So let's talk. And for those of you that maybe thought, ooh, you know what? After listening to this, I don't think I'm ready. That's okay too. You just dodged a bullet. The 20 minutes or so it took you to listen to this episode just saved you thousands of hours potentially of pain and heartache. And it might be a case of just not right now. Like, I will be ready, but maybe you need another 6 months or a year, or maybe you want to wait. You have little kids and you're like, I'll just wait till they actually get into school. Then I'll have more time. Sometimes I'm like, oh, don't wait, right? Because like tomorrow's not promised. But I also understand that there are times where we simply just cannot add another thing to our plate and we have other priorities. So as long as you're making this decision from a place of power, from a place of inquiry and looking at all the options and really weighing it and going back to your values, and you go, you know what? Not right now isn't the time, but you've done the due diligence and the work. I will stand behind that decision 1,000% every single time. Okay. Because we all have to come back to our values, our why, and our purpose at that season of life. All right, ladies, go start those side hustles. Let me know how they're going. If you have any questions, of course, you can always reach out. And until next time, stay fabulous. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're inspired to take action by committing to one of the tips or strategies we talked about in today's episode. And if you want accountability and support, I've got your back. Join my private Facebook group, Successful Working Women Rocking Reinvention Today. You'll find a community of like-minded women waiting to support you, exclusive content, and helpful resources to ensure you succeed. Lastly, if you loved this episode, do me a favor and be sure to leave a review. Together, we can encourage more women to live their purpose. See you next time.